Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about how to level design with puzzles in mind. So when you have puzzles, you need to actually come up with the idea of how they work and their design functionality before you even go into the level design. That's the best idea you could do. So for me, I've come up with these little buttons that activate these moving platforms. So when I spawn in, I can walk over, I hit E, and the platform starts to move. And then it moves back into place, and then it loops that forever. What that allows me to do is I can make multiple platforms that have different buttons to where they start activating. So I'm going to use that to build a little level to show you those puzzles in mind. So with these in mind, I go to Cube Grid, which is under the modeling mode. So I can drag across and hit E to go up and Q to go down and delete. So I'm going to create a little area. So this is going to be my little building that is going to have our puzzle inside of it. So I need a start location, an end area, and where the puzzle's located. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little area right here. Boom. I'm going to go down a few and up one. Then we're going to go over here, go down a few, up one. I'm going to hit Z. So Q to go down, E to go up, Z to do this. Click the corners, hit E to go up to create a little ramp. I can actually go one over. Let's go ahead and grab an extra one. So Z, E, 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 E. There we go. Hit done. I'm gonna do this. Drag on down right here. Q, E. Same thing for right here. Drag across. Q, E. And drag across. Q, E. There we go. Now we got a little area for them to get back up at. So with everything set up here, I'm going to create a little roof. So get a nice little enclosed area. Actually, I'm going to refrain from doing that so I can keep my aerial view of everything. So I want areas for these buttons to be located, and I want it to take 3 or 4 of them. So I want one area to be right here. All right, so now we got the first little button area. So here I can have a button. I need a button that sees this area right here. So I could actually set a spot right here for a button to be as well. And that would actually work as our little thing to show off that the buttons are what are used to get these platforms going. So if I set this button right here, can I get it set up on the floor? There we go. I can also drag in a platform. Let's go ahead and test which direction it moves. Walk over, hit E. All right. I have to assign the platform to it. So I go over and hit E. So it's moving that way. So now I know that I need to turn this like so. So this is going to be our first little platform right there. So if we want to take this even a little bit further, we can make it a little bit forward so they have to jump over to it instead of just walking. This will add a bit more fun mechanics for the player to enjoy working along. So now I just hit Shift 5, go to my cube grid, and I can shrink the size of the cube right here. And that should be a pretty good size. I'm going to drag this all the way across to the other end. Too big. Boom, 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 boom. Alright, so we'll worry about that later. This, need to take the cube, return it to size. There we go. So now we know it needs to slide in about right there. So we got our first cube right there, second right there, and our third will be right here. So now we've got 3, and you have to complete all 3 to get across. And then we'll have a simple addition to the cube grid right here. Turn this to scale. And we got a little path right there. This will lead out to our next area if we had one. Now we'll go ahead and seal it off to where it just looks like an exit. There we go. So, easy way to hide these spots right here. Build a little room around it. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, it just needs to cover up the light. Make sure not to touch your blueprint because it will merge to your blueprint and create copies of your entire thing. If you're doing a more direct thing, of course, you could just cut it out and everything. Then you'd have those little slots. We hit accept. Boom. Now I've got these three right here. So the player comes over here. They hit E on the button for the first time, and the platform slides out, goes back in, and then it slides back out. And the player learns, okay, so this is how it works. And if I really want them to have to work for their first bit of progress, I can switch it to the second one. So that way when they hit it, they still see it, but it's a little bit further out. So it tells them, okay, so this isn't the only one here. I have to go find the others. So easy way to set everything up is, for one, I've got a little material right here for the cube button that when you hit it, it presses down. Whenever you activate it, you could set it to where this red changes materials. And that's as simple as we go into the code real quick. How this code works is when you enter into the cube, which I've got SM Cube set up to build the shape, and then I've got a box collision. Then if you scroll down, which a box collision is just add and then box collision. And I scaled it to where I wanted it to be. And then if you click it, and then in details, you can scroll down. There's a plus for on component begin and on component end overlap. I cast in my character BP, and then I connect that to enable input for the button puzzle itself, using the controller as the set enabled input. And then when they leave, disable the input. So over here, with that enabled, I press E, activates the timeline, which gets both the start point of X, which is time 0, and the location that it starts at for the button on the Z-axis is 91.97, then it goes down to 89.37, and it goes back up to the 91.97. You do the same thing for the Z-axis. You create a track for the float, and then you name it whichever thing you're doing. Create a point by right-clicking Add Key, and then you click that point, set the time to 0, and then the value to whatever you need it to be. And then you can go to the next value and then return to form, and that'll be able to create a button for you. So using this code, I'm able to make the cube go down, press as a button, and then it connects to this button press platform, which is a custom event inside of the other blueprint. Inside of the other blueprint, that custom event is timeline, which is just showing the float of 0 on the relative location. Then I moved it to an exact point, learned how far. So 414 is how far it needed to move. So then I got it to go back to 0 afterwards, and I set it to looping, which is right here. So you create a track, set looping, and that's how you get this little moving platform right there. With it activated, it's set to relative location. Here, I'll show you real quick. Set relative location. You'll see this pin right here. You can right click it and then split struct pin. And that'll turn it into this green right here. And then you could choose which of the locations you needed and set it there. And with it looping, it will always go end and then back, end and then back. So it's as simple as that. You set that up. And what this allows you to do is with that reference that you create, which in order to get the reference that we use right inside of the button puzzle, this platform reference, you go to My Blueprint, go to Variables, click plus, then you click here, you type in the name of your blueprint, which is Moving Platform, and you go over to Object Reference, and then you just name it Moving Ref. With that, I have the new Moving Ref, and so I could drag this in and get ref, drag off, button, press platform, which is the name of the custom event, and that will allow me to connect to it. But without the reference in the level, this requires you click here, and it sets up a reference right here, so then you can eyedropper and click the one that you want to use. So that's how you set up this little puzzle right here. And then inside of the blueprint, if we want the button to change, once it goes through, we can drag off the cube right here, which I believe is the right one. Yes, we can drag the cube here, set material, we can connect that to the end here, and to element 0, we can duplicate our red right here, make it green. So with this green right here, we can set it. We can go into the material. We have it set to an emissive with a multiply connecting to it. We can click here and set it to green. Apply. So what this should allow us to do is, even if I duplicate this, I can hit play in editor. I can go over here and hit E. This one turns green, this one stays red. This allows us to play around a lot with them knowing which ones are active and which ones are not. So now with this setup, we have an area that teaches them, okay, so these buttons are what we're using. And if we didn't want to do that and they come across this area and they don't know what to do, we could set up a camera in here, and when the player hits the first button, or every time they hit a button, it goes over and possesses that camera for a moment, and then it returns back to the regular camera. So right here, I want the second one to kind of be simple, because this is just an introductory to the puzzles. So teaching the player, hey, there are puzzles in the game. So now we've got the base one set up there. We got one right here. Probably put a little collectible up here, or another thing we could do is to kind of teach them that they need to jump. We can go ahead and set a little platform here, and then set another platform here, and right here. What we can do now is we can actually have a bit of fun with this. And from here, we can go ahead and drag across. Now we're going to drag all the way over, and we're going to kind of seal off the whole room here, actually. That's the floor we need it to be on anyway. So with this setup, we could actually, from here, set up another little room. So now we've got this little room there set up, and we've got these little platforms. There we go. So now we've got these little platforms. Let me even this out. There we go. A little pillar to hold it up, a little pillar over here to hold it up. So there we go. Now I got these areas. We got the other little button right here, which we could actually hide a bit better if we wanted to. And accept. So there we go. Move button number 2 right over here. So the player actually has to look for it. And if we wanted to, we could even put a little point light there and have its color change when you hit the button too. But we're not going to go that far into this on here. So from here, we've got the first 2 buttons set. We take this one and we'll connect it to the first one. And we'll put a final button up here. So this would allow us, if we didn't have these placed in an area you could see at the beginning, this one is a bit easier to get to because you know there's a platform. Okay, so I got to get up there. So now I could take in SM_cube. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a little window. So when the player hits the button up here, they'll see it start activating for the first time. This one will be connected to the final piece. So that way they're guaranteed to see it. We'll even set a little light up here because we know that we want them to be able to see this location for sure. And over here, to keep this lighting a bit simpler, we will use a rect light. So visual effect, not visual light, rect light. We'll turn this sideways. And the reason we'll use a rect light for this is it'll be a bit easier. We could stretch the height, and then we could stretch, the width, and then we could stretch the height about here. With that there, we can turn up the brightness, and now we can use 2 lights instead of 3. That lights up that whole area. It gives the player some fun shadows to play with. So then we'll do the same thing right here. We'll use a rect light over here. And that should light up the whole thing, actually. So now we can have a bit of fun and actually cube grid. There we go. Now we just got to grab our light from in here. And there we go. Now we got a fun little area for the light to set up at. Then of course we need the little light right here, which we could actually, to be able to tell the player that they need to go hit this light, we have a spotlight right here that actually points over towards it. So that way we see the area lit up but it's also kind of emphasizing that there's a item right here. So now we've designed an area with all three. And what we've done is we built a little ramp right here. And then we've got these little spots down here. These pillars give us an idea of, oh, there's something to look down here. And that kind of leads the player over here without them even thinking about it. So with the player knowing that there's little areas on here, they'll come over and look and they'll explore and it'll lead them to this spot right here. Which we can actually have a light waiting for them in here too. So we can set up a little spotlight right here. And this will kind of give them a fun little thing to play with. It's like, oh, well that's definitely important. So you'll see this red X, that's because all of these can't be connected against each other. So I'm going to set them to movable to make them dynamic. If you don't want to worry about that and you don't want to have it dynamic as well, you could click it and you can set it to static, and that will also get rid of that. You can have a ton of statics connected to each other without them red Xing and without going into movable. Alright, so with all of this set up, we have a little fun thing we can do. I believe we have this. Yeah, we do. With everything here, we can actually go through and do our final little bit of the level. So we want this to be a room. 1, 2, 3. And this drags across here. All the way to the end over here. This gives us a unique little design setup and areas to place our lights. Then we would have the other spot right here. We have areas to build rooms. So here's how we're going to reward the player for failing without them knowing that we're rewarding them for it. So how we're going to do that is we're actually going to make a wall all the way across. And now we know that we need to be able to get right here to be able to go through. But we also need them to know about the ramp right here. So what we can do is we can actually take this wall right here, get rid of it, and grow this over a little bit. And so what we've done is we created a little area for a door right there next to the door right here. So the ways out of this little area for when you fail are connected next to each other. So the player, if they fail and fall down, will come down, be like, damn it, and they'll come up here. And the first thing they'll see is the door right here. And that will lead them to the ramp right here, which will lead them to this light. I mean, this button up here. So that is our first little way of testing things. So now that we go through and play, our character would start, we would want our character to start a simple area. So a good idea would be to set them like right here. Give them a little starting area. And the reason we want to start it like this is this will give the player an area that starts up and sees the first button and the exit right away. So this is a very simplified puzzle. This is meant to be like an introduction area for a game. So of course we'd have a little light down here. Leave modeling mode. So a little spotlight right here. We don't have to put any unique things in here. Shrink this for softer light. So now once we hit play, the player now knows, oh, there's a button over there to hit. Okay, so what's this little red thing right here? Oh, okay, cool. They come around and they step out and they're like, oh, all right. They see a little door right there. They have a little ramp right here. So they jump across, and then they jump across. Oh, I failed the thing. So here we go again. Jump across, and then jump across. Now we hit the button, and if we didn't already see the second one, we see it now. So what we're gonna do is, I would actually swap those two. So the first one is the first one again. The second one is the end, because then there will be people who try and jump it. So now that we already know that this is here, we can go over and hit that. But if the player never knew about that, they would start exploring. they'd be like, okay, so I know there's a button right here, there's a button over there. Maybe there's a button through here. No, there's no button through here. We already know right there leads to the ramp. You step out here. You also have that little shadow right there that points in there. That creates a depth right there. And that tells the player, oh, okay, I can go in here. We hit E. We didn't, oh, we did set it. Good. And now we've gone ahead and beaten the puzzle. So that shows the idea of telling the player where the buttons are through subconscious edits, and now they get to play with the mechanics we've got of the platforms moving. So there we go. Now that I failed, I now have to go around, and again, if the player would have tried this earlier and not had one of these platforms, they would have been able to see this right here and been like, okay, so this is where the ramp up there is. Cool. And it teaches them without saying anything. So it's a little miniature tutorial without there being an actual tutorial. There we go. And now we've beaten the little game. And the reason we wanted to have that split platform over here is the players might look at this and be like, okay, I have to jump. But for those players who don't think like that, they see this, and that has subconsciously taught them that, okay, I can jump in this game, and I need to jump to get across. There's not more little platforms that I can activate that'll go in between them. So you're teaching them each part of the game throughout it, the buttons, the platforms from the first button, and right here it teaches you, okay, I can jump. So yeah, that is how you go ahead and design with the idea of puzzles in mind. I thought it would be a fun idea to go over something like this, and we hadn't done anything like this. So yeah, I hope you all really enjoyed this video. I hope it taught you something, and I really hope you have a good day.